Lately, my birth numbers have been haunting me. I'm talking, I started seeing them on clocks, then on car number plates. And when I was traveling and stayed at an Airbnb, guess what the house number was? You guessed it, it was my birth number. Again. Coincidence much? We'll find out. Is life only what we see, or is there more? That's a question I've often asked myself, and I'm sure some of you have too. It's no secret that human beings love to find meaning. We are wired to connect the dots, to notice the patterns, to search for stories that make sense in the chaos. And maybe that's just part of being human, the part that wants to understand the world around us. And perhaps that's the part of me that's deeply human too. The part that tries to break down those little moments that feel a little bit too random, a little off the script, a glitch in the matrix, if you will, that tries to understand this life beyond the veil that surrounds us every day. Sometimes there are just too many patterns that cannot go by unnoticed. The kind words spoken right when you need them, that friend. When everything goes bad at the same time, that's just like, what? Why is this happening all at once? It's like my only thing, and I get really impatient. So I'm just like, it's very frustrating.
As I told you, it's okay. It's going to, and that's not the end of the world. And to your surprise, some of the things that you think that go wrong resolve by themselves.
Yeah, I always think that.
Yeah, they don't even need your intervention. Just let it go. I remember some situations where you are overwhelmed. You have to do like 20 things at a time, and you know that you don't have time, and nobody will help you. And finally, what you would do? You get frustrated and you do nothing. Nothing at all.
Yep.
Is that the end of the world? No.
Yeah. Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
That friend who messages you the moment you think of them, or the object that shows up in real life just after it appeared in your mind. Those moments make me pause and ask, are these just coincidences, or is my intuition picking up on something my rational mind cannot yet explain? Is my surroundings catching up to something that I've yet to learn? Is everything connected? Is there a space between our subconscious and our conscious minds that we cannot access until we are more awake? Or are these simply our attempts to turn the ordinary into something special? Think about it. Has there ever been a time when you sensed something before it happened? When your gut feeling turned out to be right, and for a split second you wondered if you were a psychic? Some people move through life without ever asking those questions. They wake up, commute, work, eat, sleep, repeat, and never stop to wonder why. But my mind doesn't work that way. Am I living my life right? I mean, I could die tomorrow and I haven't seen Eiffel Tower yet. Fortunately or unfortunately, it wanders constantly, connecting dots that may or may not exist, trying to make sense of why things are the way they are. Something in me is so unsettled by the idea that the life handed down to us, the roadmap we are expected to follow, is all that there is. The thought that we are just here to exist within someone else's idea of normalcy is so infuriatingly dissatisfactory. There's something bigger than the regular life, and I always believe in that idea. The older I get, the more I'm convinced that some of us weren't meant to walk the well-paved path. Some of us were meant to forge our own, to believe that the world isn't just black and white, that there are things we don't yet understand. Even science, as powerful as it is, doesn't have all the answers all the time. A wise man once said, "The more I learn, the more I realize I know nothing." And I couldn't agree more. The wise man was called Socrates, and I abide by this quote of his. You can call it quantum physics, philosophy, science, spirituality, or imagination. Give it the name you must. I'm not sure where exactly it fits, but I personally tie it to both science and spirituality. Well, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have called myself spiritual even just a few years ago. But spirituality, I've learned, is a lot like love. You don't find it, it sort of finds you. And it found me too, in the strangest ways and through some of the hardest times of my life. I'm not the meditating, crystal collecting kind of a spiritual person. For me, it's not about appearances or rituals, although one could argue that those are all part of the deal, which is fair. But for me, spirituality is not just about aesthetics. It's about understanding myself, my place in the world, and the way I relate to others. Years ago, when I was just another regular 20-year-old, minding my own business, living my own life, who hadn't seen the world like she does now, I started noticing repeating numbers, and they were following me constantly. Similar patterns that would not leave me alone, like just synchronized numbers on my watch, on the clock. At first, I ignored it, but then when I kept seeing them, I tried to do what everybody does, to rationalize them. I call it the cognitive bias. Voila! The red car theory and all the logical explanations I could possibly find. Because back then, I could not comprehend associating it with anything esoteric. That was until my real life twisted and turned around. I went through significant changes in my life, upheavals, changes in family dynamics, my friendships, and everything that mattered to me then. My brain was slow to catch on, but something inside me knew that there was some kind of connection with the occurrence of these events and the numbers, a kind of signaling I couldn't yet name. I do consider that whole phase to be part of my first spiritual awakening, as they like to call it famously in the pop culture world. Years later, I find myself energetically conversing with the universe, for lack of better words. And yes, it sounds a little woo-woo, but if you've stuck around this long, with or without wondering what in the world of Keanu Reeves' Neo Matrix level stuff she's talking about, hear me out, okay? Stripped bare, everything in this world comes down to this: atoms and molecules. Everything is energy in motion. So maybe sometimes your environment and your body tunes into a frequency just like a radio. You twist the dial, adjust slightly, and suddenly you catch the right signal, the station you're meant to be listening. Maybe synchronicities are just like that. They're not something magical or not godlike. It's just alignment. A moment when you and the universe are vibrating at the same frequency. You feel me? Sometimes intuition is just that. It's being tuned in, it's being tapped in, paying attention. And the more you follow those small signals, the more they show up as guidance in your life. Now, I'm not saying you should start finding meaning in every coincidence there exists. There's a fine line between being attuned to the world and losing touch with reality. Trust me, I say this because I've walked that line. But I also know this: the world isn't as simple as we've been taught. It's not a one-size-fits-all version of the truth. Maybe randomness is just randomness at times. But sometimes repeated coincidences feel like messages, like stories waiting for us to notice, to realize itself in the material world. Logic is valuable, but it's built on what's already been proven. Intuition, on the other hand, is the body's way of knowing before the mind does. Synchronicities aren't the hippy-dippy nonsense people make them out to be in the modern world. They're just nature's way of reminding us to be more open to these energetic alignments, to trust our intuition, to pay attention to what we feel, not just what we see. Because the world is more than what meets the eye. And the eye can only see so far. There's always going to be a blind spot. And maybe that's the key to it all. So coming back to my birth numbers haunting me, and even showing up at my Airbnb, which was such a loud sign for me to ignore as a mere coincidence, I'll just say this: I don't let these things rule my life and absolutely go absurd trying to make sense of the numbers or these repeated glitches. But I do take notice, because maybe in those moments I'm more aligned with the universe in ways I cannot logically explain. And maybe, just maybe, Those signs are the universe's quiet way of saying, you're tuned in.